Well, welcome everybody. We are super excited for another episode of Continence Chat. My Seni teammate, Susie Fox, is here with me today. And joining us, I think a lot of people in the senior living and the Alzheimer's / dementia space are going to recognize our very, very special guest, Carrie Alberts, founder of Dementia Darlings. So we are really excited. She's doing magnificent things in that space to help caregivers. And Carrie, I know you are the founder of Dementia Darlings. I know you work with other companies as well to help create awareness. And I know you've got a master's degree in gerontology. And do you mind kind of kicking us off by, we always love learning, how did you get here today?
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I love that you have these conversations that we need to have and not many people want to have them, right? I always joke that I'm like all in for the unsexy things in dementia care. I'm like, let's talk about the unsexy stuff. But so happy to be here. My journey, it's isn't it wild in this industry? I feel like you either have kind of like been on this path that's kind of randomly brought you here, or it just in the middle of another career, you end up in it. Like, it's just such a weird, backstories you get a lot. But with me, the seed was planted when I was about 6 years old, to be honest, when my grandmother was catapulted into her dementia diagnosis after a really horrible car accident that took my grandfather's life. And so my dad had to become a family caregiver in a different state overnight. And, he has young kids, he's working, he's at the prime of his life, his new family. And so it was a lot. And I just remember, obviously they did everything they could. My parents did such an amazing job, but no one explained it to us. Like, no one sat down and explained dementia or, explained maybe the progression or what needs. I remember looking back and talking to my dad now, looking back, just like how it wasn't talked about. And it was so hush hush and just like, well, it could be, normal aging and, her grief and like, there's so many things. So you don't really ever get that real answer. And then, so you're always kind of just trying to figure it out. So I remember that vividly until I was 13 when she passed. But being gravitating towards older adults growing up. Like, if we were at family weddings, I was always with all the grandmas and grandpas. Like, that's where I love to be. And so it made sense to study gerontology when I went to school. And the second I was able to start my first practicum, I was sent to an intergenerational adult daycare center. So you can imagine 40 grandmas and grandpas with preschoolers that come over twice a day.
Wow.
It's magic. I was like, this is why I was born. Like, I mean, it was just like, this is it just, everything clicked. Like, this is where I'm meant to be and the community I'm meant to be a part of. But it really did start when I was young and I didn't know it.
Yeah. It's interesting, as you were sharing the lack of education back then. I think it's interesting because obviously being deep in the weeds with senior living and healthcare and dementia and so forth, I feel like there is so much information out there, and yet there's still a big demographic that doesn't know what they don't know, and their loved one is getting an early diagnosis, and it's kind of like we're stuck back where we were, and yet we've come so far. It's like an oxymoron of sorts.
That is so true, Deanna. Like, we've come so far, but still these barriers go so deep. Like, I don't know why we're all still so separate, specifically family caregivers. Like, when there are over, 50 something, or is it 63 million family caregivers across the US, something like that. It's like a wild number. And then, we don't know for sure, but I'd say I think it's like 11 million or so. I can't remember the exact, that are dementia caregivers. And the constant theme I hear is, I'm alone. No one understands me. And I'm like, your neighbor next door could be having the same thought.
Yeah.
why are we still so siloed? And I think it also doesn't help that, we're so independent in the sense of like, you take care of things quietly kind of in our society, like you don't put it out there. And with social media, you can even be more private and keep things in because you can be learning or talking to people just online and not in your like real life world. So you can kind of stay under the radar. I don't know. There's so many layers to it. And like, I don't know how to get to people. It's hard, but there's so many amazing educators and people out there. So it's like, how do we all find the people that need us?
Right, right. Well, you're doing an amazing job through social media, all of your different channels and outlets. And I always think too, you may not know exactly who you are helping, which isn't the point anyway. The point is to help. And so the ripple effects, and I always think too, if you're helping a caregiver, indirectly, you may be helping the daughter of the caregiver and the daughter's daughter of the caregiver and the schoolmate or the colleague, and it just ripples. So I always think kudos to people that are in the space like yourself, Carrie, because you're indirectly affecting so many and directly affecting so many that it's powerful.
Thank you. And same with this show. And, you never know how far it's getting. And then like certain things will come up and you're like, wow, someone across the country is across the world. I'm sorry, across the world. Like someone is, across the world utilizing what I'm giving out and like printing these posts and putting it on their parents' fridges in Japan. Like, what is going on? It's amazing. And yeah, it really is beautiful, the community that you can find online. But again, I think we do need that in-person community, and that is where I think we still lack a lot, but there's so many people that need the help. So yeah, it is good to remind ourselves we don't even know the extent of how many people we're touching.
That's right.
There's a big need out there. And Carrie, I'm curious, two-pronged question.
Yeah.
Are you working with family caregivers and professional caregivers? And then where do you start?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm one of those people that's still like, what can I do best to serve, and I'm still trying to figure that out. I feel like I'm always kind of evolving in a different way, but in the 6 years that I've done Dementia Darling, I partner with different companies that I just really appreciate and love what they're doing. The missions behind it, a lot of caregiver companies that come from the caregiver experience, things like that. And I work with them to make sure that other caregivers know that they're there for them and they have these supports, and people are actually thinking of a dementia caregiver platform and dementia caregiver things in their lives. So yes, I work with companies and I work with communities to talk with their care teams, because we need to bridge the gap between family caregivers and professionals. And something that, because I haven't been a family caregiver, so I don't know that reality. I know that it's the hardest job in the world, but I don't know until I am in it myself. And I want to make that very, acknowledged. But as a professional caregiver in my past, I often talk about this. My first job in senior living, my executive director made us really fear families. So one of my big things is to push on how to connect with families and to not demonize families. And, we were told, don't talk to them because there's liability. And if you say something, blah, 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 and it scared us, we wouldn't even talk to the families. And, being a advocate for families as well, I want to shout through the rooftops, this is most likely one of the hardest things of their life. And we're now hiding from them and making them feel worse or like they're bad or whatever it is. And so I do work with a lot of care teams and communities so they can learn how to show up for family caregivers and to be more empathetic in that sense as well. And then on the other hand, I work with family caregivers mainly in social media, because I don't want to have to charge family caregivers. So I haven't really gotten to that point yet. So I share as much as I can free stuff, webinars, all the things. I try to post every single day. I have over 2,300 posts that people can go through on Instagram that I've posted and learn from. And so just trying to educate across the board of dementia, the dementia community at large. So that probably didn't answer your question, but I'm all over the place trying to provide for everyone in some way to get across how important it is to see the person, to, focus on dignity and person-centered, care. And I just really want to be that, even if it's that annoying voice out there that's just like, wake up, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
This is not working. And we can't keep waiting for someone to change it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at.
Well, you know what's interesting is you're saying all this, and I think this is just my opinion. It's only my opinion. I think you have to be all over the place. And what I mean by that is there's a big focus on individualized care, person-centered care. And if you really think about it, the difficulty, in my opinion, whether you're helping a family caregiver or you're trying to help a community caregiver, is you think of all the dynamics that come along with it, and they're people dynamics. And now you're going to add a diagnosis on top of it that you're trying to help. So it's like, if all three of us were caring with a loved one with dementia, for example, Susie may say, well, you know what, I've got great family support. So education about family support doesn't really relate to me. I'm good there, but I struggle with, we have 2 floors in the house and I'm caring for my dad and he's always trying to go up the stairs, and how do I get him? And then mine could be, knock on wood, I do have a strong family, but let's say I didn't. Mine could be like, well, we live on the same level house, but money's tight. But my family's great, and then you could say, oh, none of that applies to me. I'm on the first floor. We don't have issues with that, but dad is moody all the time. And that's my struggle. And it goes on and on. I mean, that was probably a terrible example.
No, it's true. And it progresses.
Crazy.
Yeah.
How many there are.
Yeah. And so like when a family caregiver, meets other caregivers, are like, we're all in the same thing, but we're also dealing with such different things, but we're on the same journey of just figuring it out, because no one inherently knows how to do dementia care. No one inherently knows this other world and language. We're all learning. And absolutely, it's just, and with a progressive disease, you might have family support at one point, and then 10 years in, they're gone. And now you do need that education, or, your loved one never had, issues with certain agitation, but now, a couple of years in, now they are, there's so many things you just can't plan because it can change day by day, hour by hour, So that's where it's like, where do you even begin? When people are like, what should you post about? I'm like, well, there's a million things I could post about, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I know also, I've heard other family caregivers say this, the people they thought would be there for them weren't there.
No.
And it was so painful. It was like it added another layer of trauma to everything that they were already going through. And I'm noticing also, Carrie, on your website, there's a comment. It says, together we can fight the tragedy narrative around dementia. What does that mean, the tragedy narrative?
Yeah. So something that I see constantly is this doom and gloom. We hear it from our doctors when we get a dementia diagnosis. You have dementia, get your affairs in order. You could live with dementia for 20 years. You could have pretty beautiful life. Things look different and we adapt, just like if we got heart disease, we don't, so that's it, packing it up. No, we adapt, right? And so that's the thing. I don't know why that's kind of like a preconceived notion that people just think you're done for. And it's like, people often get it and they're still living independently at that time. They're still living their lives, and you can live a beautiful life with dementia, but with this tragedy narrative of, seeing articles. I remember when Bruce Willis, he came out with his, and I remember seeing, I think it was from the UK, but it was a article, and it literally said, Bruce Willis no longer experiences joy. And I'm like, that is the epitome of the tragedy narrative.
Wow.
If we told people, when you have dementia, you don't experience joy, you don't experience life anymore, that is the furthest from the truth. You don't have to remember things to experience joy, first off. And that's, there's so many things that feed into this tragedy narrative. And that's why, it's the normal thing not to show up for people when it happens, like you just said, because we don't know about it. We've demonized it. We're scared of it. Just like, we often say cancer was in the 80s, right? Or, it was hush, hush, the big C. And now it's the same thing. And it's with dementia. And I just think, this tragedy narrative, it's so important for companies like what you're doing and all these amazing companies that are trying to show with the right tools, with the right education, you can live a beautiful life.
Yeah.
It just will look a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I agree with you. Speaking of joy, I had a great aunt fairly recently in the last 3 or 4 years. She's since passed, but she was in a memory care community. And I went and visited her with my mom up in Massachusetts. And we were in the living room area of the community. And there was a gentleman there, and it always has just stuck with me. He and his wife had been married more than 50 years, and he walks backwards so she can see his face. And he comes every day at noon, and they walk and they walk. And he was sharing with us that is her joy. She recognizes him when they're that close. She looks forward to the noon hour. And it was amazing to see this gentleman walking backwards with his wife or whatever, but that was their joy every single day. So pockets of joy can be felt out there, so it's always a reminder to me. I loved seeing that. It was amazing.
That's beautiful. And that's what it's about. Like I talk about all the time, joy changes throughout our life. The joy that I experienced at 21 is not the same now. And that's okay. And it's going to change if I am living with dementia one day. But, being proactive about finding joy. I was just sharing this yesterday. I am pretty proactive with myself about going out and seeing the sunset every day, because that is my joy. That is something I find joyful. I live in Vegas. We have beautiful sunsets. And so that's something that I try to take for myself. I have my coffee in the morning is my joy morning, aka 6 hours of my day. And then the sunset are kind of my 2 markers of joy. And I really encourage people to find those little things. And I know it can be annoying. Like you're like, oh, come on. But slowing down and seeing those things is everything. Like I used to make fun of my mom for taking pictures of flowers, and now I'm that girl. So it's fine.
That's so funny. Anyway, I'm right with you on the coffee thing. That is like that is my morning, like just first thing, literally that I respect that joy.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit before we jumped on, but you're headed to the Eden Alternative.
Yes, I love the Eden Alternative and how they're with the Dementia Action Alliance right now. Oh my gosh, it's just the best partnership.
Yes. We've had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with Michelle Daniel, and she to me is just doing amazing things. That conference is going to be amazing. A couple of our teammates are exhibiting there, but I was just at Leading Age in November. Michelle was a speaker with a gentleman who was living with dementia, and he read a poem, and Michelle gave me the inside education that I wasn't even aware of about folks that, don't quote me, Carrie, but left brain may be triggering right brain, but all of a sudden people who never painted before are wonderful painters and artists. And I was fascinated, but it all ties back to the joy that you were bringing up. So I think that's a great conference.
And being open to allowing our loved ones living with dementia to try new things, because it's often like, my dad would never paint. That's weird. Like, don't do that. Or don't give my dad the baby doll. And I get it, like the biases in our brain, but we need to teach about how important that is, because it can bring joy. It can bring comfort. And it might be weird to someone on the outside to see your dad doing something he's never done. I get that. But to remember that if it brings someone joy, and they're not hurting anyone, it doesn't matter. Let them be, that's how it should be. That's how I would want people to treat me. And going back to Michelle, I love that she incorporates people living with dementia on stage. That's how it should be. I want to see caregivers at our senior living conferences, family caregivers and professionals on stage, sharing their journey. I want to hear CNAs. I want to hear that, like, we need to make sure everyone's voices are heard at these events. And that's something I want to see different in conferences. Truly, I want to see the people that we're serving on the stage, and I'm hoping we'll see that change. That's why I love the Dementia Council of Dementia. The National Council of Dementia Minds is a council of people living with dementia, and they're here to educate and work with companies and people. Like, I just highly recommend having people living with dementia on your stages.
Yeah. Great advice. I hope so too. I really do. It's conferences are changing, and that's a good thing. I think they're not what a lot of them are not what they used to be, in a positive way, more inclusive and so forth. So
I agree.
Yeah. You always have your hand in new innovative items to help people and so forth. What are you excited about? What are you seeing on the horizon, or stuff that's out there now that hadn't been?
So much. It's exciting. After going to the health conference in October and then CES just this month, I am just so impressed with the innovation coming out of the incontinence area, truly. That's what I want to see more of, is incontinence and bathroom innovation, and then kitchen innovation and safety, things like that. That's kind of where my hope is to see more of. But I need to look up the company they were exhibiting, but there is a company that it's going to be like $120, and it sticks into your toilet and can specifically tell you, like, few days before symptoms start, if a UTI is coming. That's huge. That's life-saving.
That is life-saving.
So of course I had an aneurysm and cried at their booth. I mean, people don't know what's coming when I come up to their incontinence booth. They're like, who is this woman? She needs help. And I'm like, thank you for doing this. But it's true, because we've seen people we love die. We've seen this. We've experienced this in this industry. We know how serious this is. Yeah. And unfortunately, family caregivers, you think, oh, a UTI, just like when I was in my 20s, is not that bad. It's not the same for an older adult, especially living with dementia, who can't communicate with you what's happening in their body. So seeing things like that. And then another company, I think it's Withings, they have a actual sensor for the bedrooms for like communities.
Okay.
And the sensor only picks up on UTI. And they're saying they can diagnose 3.5 days before symptoms show.
Wow.
Just by having a thing in their room.
Really? I don't know.
How?
That's interesting. See, in your travels, you just brought it up, residential, or I'm going to say group homes. But in California, where Susie's out of, there's lots of group homes. Here in Florida, where I am, there's a fair amount. But do you see it all over the country with more and more smaller communities as opposed to the larger ones?
Yes, that is the push, I think, of the future. I think people are gravitating towards the home environment more, and those smaller groups, and making sure their person has more direct care, honestly. And it's usually more affordable from what I've understood. But I have gone to, for 3 years, I think I spoke 1 year, but I went this year. This is when I saw Michelle speak recently, is in November, was at the Residential Assisted Living Conference in Arizona. And they have hundreds or thousands of small homes across the US. And that seems to be the future, I think, of affordable care and like more, again, comfortable home-like places, which I really like. I could see myself living in a big community, but I do like that as well as the homes.
Yeah.
What would you consider to be a dementia-friendly home?
There's a lot to that. There is a lot to that. I actually did a presentation. It's on YouTube for AARP, and it's how to make sure your home is like as safe and dementia friendly as possible. So there's a lot of things that you can do physically, environmentally. Yes, there's color theory, all the things. But I think number one, being a dementia friendly home is education. It's being empathetic. It's being understanding. It's being curious. It's patient. I mean, it really starts with the understanding of the disease as much as possible, because when we understand and separate from our person, we can show up in a different way. And same for communities. They need to be able to have that basis, that foundational education, or you really can't grow off of anything. It wouldn't make sense. So dementia friendly homes need to have consistent and growing education is the number one thing.
That's a great answer. Of where when people think home, right, you could go to the physical things easily.
Yeah.
And but the educational component is huge. Yeah.
Well, once you get, lost in it and overwhelmed, it's hard to get out.
Yeah.
And like, it's hard for families, and rightfully so. And to get in a place where it's just getting by every day. And if you can start with knowing, okay, there's some supports. If I get in, a 2 a.m. night where I am losing my mind, I can call this number. Just like knowing these things at the start of a long journey is a totally game changer for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed there was a term, it's a capgras or
Capgras.
What is that?
Yeah, capgras syndrome. It's really interesting. It is not very common, but we have seen it before. I know people that have experienced it themselves, but it's where your person wakes up one day and just sees their caregiver as a complete duplicate, but it's not them. Like they think their person, like that's their body, but that is not you. And you're tricking me. And it's like this deep, deep delusion that you cannot talk someone out of. And I had a woman who her mom just was like, no, you were traded in. You're not my daughter. I know you're trying to trick me. And it lasted for months. And she thought she was being poisoned by her. Like she had to bring other people in to feed her because she was just like, something changed in her brain and was just terrified of her daughter and thought she was someone else. It's really, really heartbreaking.
Wow.
But it's not permanent.
No, like they say it's not. I mean, we don't know for sure, but I think it usually they work through it. I've heard of, because sometimes it can happen over a UTI, just those intense symptoms, and so you just get super confused and that can go away after that. But I was shocked when the woman said it took months, but with the brain, we don't know. Anything can happen with the brain. It is wild.
Yeah.
That's
wow.
the hard part.
That is the hard part. Do you, in your travels at the different events that you go to, I mean, Susie and I and our teammates, we eat, sleep, and breathe incontinence, and we're always trying to push to improve continence at some level. And then if a person, even if they go from heavy incontinence, but there's a review of their medicines, and all of a sudden now they have more moderate. So we're always about improve. And then we're, hey, if you have to be in a product, be in a good one. So the features and benefits of our products lead to better outcomes. Do you think, I mean, I know we're, friendly here, so I know you're aware of Seni, but do you think as a whole in your travels, because incontinence can have a stigma to it. One of the reasons we do this program is to help break down the barriers and make those uncomfortable conversations more comfortable. Are you seeing barriers being more broken down, or do you think the stigma is still out there when it comes to talking about incontinence?
I think in professional settings, it's getting much better, and it's not the like snickering, laughing, and like it's like, they see how it's such a big part of their day, and it's very much thought about with intention. But with family caregivers, I feel like it's more hush hush, because it's almost that like you don't want to admit you're helping your dad in the bathroom. Like you don't want to admit that you're doing these experiences, because then it feels a little real, like too real. So I think it's just like more of the quiet hush hush, and for the family caregivers, and rightfully so, because they also want to preserve their loved one's dignity. And they often think, if I talk about this, that isn't helpful. So I see it in support groups when it's just caregivers and, and just talking to me. Oh yeah. Like I hear everything, all the dirty details. I'm like, tell me everything, you're safe here. But I think it's still that we don't want to see our parents like that, or our grandparents, or the person, our husband, our wife. And so we just kind of deal with it quietly.
I've been with this company 7 years, and I can tell you honestly, I think in our country for too long, a brief is a brief is a brief mentality. And that's so not true. But people that are deep in the weeds, they get it real quick when they're changing sheets, or that loved one's wet, or they can't go out, or what have you. And then so our team is challenged every day with kind of climbing a mountain. But the good news is that we're getting there.
You are. And this is just the beginning, right?
Yeah.
This is just the beginning of the wave of people who are going to need you. And it is, at the end of the day, about living your life fully and with dignity. And you can do that with the right products. And when we're wasting our money on things because we don't know any better, or, it's just, they already have so much to deal with. So we need to make this a very clear, like, okay, this is what you're dealing with. This is the go-to, like, and just like we do for parents, when they're new parents, they have all the different diapers and all the different resources, and they get baby showers. Well, caregivers don't get caregiver showers. And I want to change that. I want to change how people show up when they take on the caregiving role. And so that's something else. We should make a shower registry.
Ooh, I like that idea.
That is very good. I have a feeling you've got secrets behind the scenes of projects.
No, this just comes out and then nothing comes from it because I have too many things on my list. It is wild. So remind me of this, please. This is a good idea.
But that could be a great resource.
I'm sorry, Susan, what'd you say?
That could be a great resource, caregiver shower, even if it was online, where they could witness support.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm not alone going through this. And oh, you mean there's products that could help me? There's things I should learn about. There's links and books and articles.
Yeah. And there's like all these other cool people that are caregivers that I want to be friends with, because the people that I thought would show up didn't, but it's okay because now I have new people that want to be a part of my journey.
Yes.
And that's the big thing.
Yeah. Well, great. How do people reach you that want to learn more about all that you bring to the table?
Oh my goodness. Please follow me on social media. I'm coolest, if you will, on Instagram. That's where I like my time the most. But Instagram is where I began Dementia Darling. So at Dementia Darling, but that's on Facebook and LinkedIn and on TikTok and Threads and YouTube. But yeah, please reach out. And then my email is info@dementiadarling.com. Let's partner. Let's fight the tragedy narrative. Let's shower family caregivers with love and support and give them what they deserve, and just all the things. I'm here to partner and collab and lift everyone up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking your time, because we know how busy you are, but we appreciate you very much. And I just think you're doing amazing work out there. So thank you.
Same to you. You'll be the number one thing on my caregiver registry, showers. It'll be great.
I love it. There's lots we could do together, Carrie.
Yes, there is. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Susie, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're so relatable and fun and encouraging. And the quote that comes to mind is, be the change you want to see. And I feel like, Carrie Alberts, you are the change that people want to see in the world. You're bringing knowledge and resources and help and tons of encouragement. So I applaud you and thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your life with us.
Thank you so much. Oh, I feel so loved. Thank you.